thought we'd start with you just like maybe giving us an overview of this uh, project that you were assigned and the challenge that was presented to you. Uh, to start us off, give us some context. What was the project you're working on?
So I work, as you know, in fisheries and oceans, and I'm in the science branch. We do a lot of different work in the science branch, and some of it can be dangerous for personnel. So we're required, like everybody else, to have safe work procedures for those tasks that they score over a certain amount in a criticality assessment for hazards. And by legislation, we're supposed to have those reviewed every 3 years and signed off again. And we were in the science branch, we were behind. And we had a lot of how it had previously been handled is that, kind of like each section in a division almost was off doing their own safe work procedures. So you can imagine everybody drives a vehicle. So there were probably like 10 to 15 different driving a vehicle THAs and SWPs. And we ended up, trying to figure out which was the right one, which was the most comprehensive, was everybody still, using widgets, and they were just everywhere. And I couldn't find in the government, we also need something called the task hazard analysis that goes with the safe work procedure. I couldn't find the two documents because they were, for some reason, existing in two separate, like a THA wasn't attached to an SWP. Anyway, it was a nightmare. And
Right.
we were behind. And our new science director, when she came in, wanted to make health and safety be paramount, which is fantastic, but also wanted this to be a project that got done this fiscal year. So she was looking for volunteers to come over on assignment, and I put my hand up because I had been working on this with another group as we were going through things in the last couple of years. And I kind of felt that I had the knowledge and the background from working on it to step in and to try to get it done. So that's the background.
Okay, cool. So basically, it was a safety thing. The way I understand it, if I can summarize it a bit, is there was a safety challenge that you needed to get all the documents in order, and they were scattered all over the place in different locations, different versions, and so duplicates and outdated things and like things in the wrong format and all that, like scattered everywhere.
Yep,
So,
that sounds
so
right.
what prompted you to use AI? And hopefully people on the call here can relate to that, where you're faced with a project. This one was sort of an information management one, but you probably all experienced this, where you've got a bunch of procedures or standards or something in your workplace and you can't find them, where every branch or division has a different set of rules, even though they're supposed to be about the same thing, and so on and so forth. So that was Danielle's challenge. And so tell us what inspired you to use it. Actually, before you get into that, someone said they can't access the Scrum doc. So I tried to share a one pager, and maybe you can't access it. So I
can throw
apologize
it
for
up
that.
afterwards, Ken, if you want to present it
We
or
can
something
put
when we
we'll
get
put it
to
on
it.
the screen, but I think it's also available on the website for download. I'm not real sure. Anyway, I'll try. Some of you might be able to access, some of you won't, but it's not mission critical if you don't have it. So sorry, continue on there, Danielle. What inspired you to use AI? You had this challenge, and then you're like, oh, I know, I'm going to use AI.
No, well, I didn't know I was going to use AI actually. So to be fair, so AI is one of those tools, and I'm going to call it a tool. It's not the end all be all, but it's one of those tools that was just starting to gain popularity, at least in where I was working, about a year ago. So, it was one of those things we were all talking about it, and we all know the AI is evolving really quickly, right? Like people were using AI maybe to like do funny pictures or, the odd thing, but we weren't really talking about it a ton, but I was curious about it. And then we had somebody else who kind of organized the project I'm on right now last winter. And when we were working together on some of the documents, and I was working with her on things, she spent probably, and I didn't know she was doing it, she spent about a day and a half to 2 days merging documents the long way, like, so they were, all about, say, driving small vessels and all of the work that you do when you're driving a small vessel. So she was getting, one from the Pacific region, and she got one from Newfoundland region, and she got one off the national site. And then she was trying to figure out which format she wanted it in. And then she went out and got all of the weird ones, or not weird, but all of the ones that we had everywhere in our own branch. And she was trying to piece together, like, how could she put this together? How was it going to be formatted? What parts was she putting in? And whose was more comprehensive? Whose was maybe out of date? So she spent a long time doing this. And I had just started playing with AI. And of course, we didn't really have Copilot like we do on our computers and stuff now. It wasn't as accessible. So I just said to her, like, oh my goodness, you spent that long. Let's see what AI can do. So I think I used ChatGPT, to be fair. I pulled in those documents, fed it in, told it what I wanted it to do, like, merge these documents. I think all I said was, I wasn't great at prompt writing at the time, but, merge all of these documents into one comprehensive safe work procedure for operating small vessels. And in moments, it did what Kirsten had taken days to do. And like, boom, it was there. And I won't tell you what she said, but there was an expletive the comment, which was quite funny. And then I think that was my eye opener. Like, we don't need to spend, like, our time is better spent on developing the safe work procedure and thinking about what we do and how we should do it safely than to do all this formatting. So that's kind of the birth of where we decided, AI could be really beneficial for the project. And then, I didn't start doing this probably until about September. This, that would have been in April, probably. Yeah, Kirsten, exactly, Ken. And in September, I was even getting more familiar with AI. And I'm a naturally curious person, so I was playing with it a lot more. And then we realized, and I also was doing a lot of sessions with you, Ken, you and Tim. We were meeting with you and talking about how we could use AI in different things in government, and we were having really fun Friday afternoon sessions where we would, ask AI to do something and see what it could spit out. So a lot of the stuff that Ken talked about in his last talk, that list of things, those are all tried by us, and it was really cool to do. So when I came into this project, I'm like, there's so much to do. I need to really harness AI to be able to help me pull these documents together, put it into a common template. I can use AI to check legislation for me because we have to make sure we're using the most current Canadian occupational health and safety standards or marine standards. So I just started really harnessing it to help me do my job, but I will have a set of human eyes on it for sure. There's no human out of the loop on any of these, but I'll just give you an idea of how fast it allowed me to work. That and my new ADHD meds. I do have to give Vyvanse a shout out here. So
she's working for Big Pharma. Watch out.
Yeah. So in early October, my director said to me that she was concerned that we weren't going to meet our target of having 25 completely signed off by the end of October, because we were still kind of in the planning phase, and we had done some Scrum training with the staff, and like I was just getting ready to launch. And I'm one of those annoying people that, if you did this session with Jean earlier, you're more worried about the output than you are about all the effort that goes into it. And I was like, challenge accepted. But we actually, that was on October the 7th. By the end of October, we had over 25 complete, and like the review process takes a while too. So we had over 25 signed off and ready to go. So it, we were exceeding expectations. I was even a bit surprised to see how well the whole thing was working. But AI, I will honestly say, as a tool, has saved us months on this project, like months. So.
Wow, awesome. So I want you to tell us a little bit about the challenges you face just in getting AI to work for you. And
Yeah.
and I mean that in a couple different ways, or at least I think I can identify a couple challenges. You may add more. one challenge is just getting access to the technology, right? You struggled to get licenses and to, be able to use like a full version of Copilot and so on. So maybe tell us briefly about that and how you overcame these challenges, but also the challenges which you've alluded to, the kind of like at first, the prompts weren't very good and we weren't getting what we wanted. And maybe, if there's any sort of nuggets of wisdom that you can impart to our audience, what they might do so they're not repeating the same mistakes you made.
Sure. I'll start on the first part of your questions that had to do with like the struggles of getting AI, actually. So if you work for the federal government in Canada, you know that they build pretty tight fences around software that you're allowed to use. And I had Copilot, and it was I'll say the first iteration of Copilot back in the fall, which did not have ChatGPT linked to it. And Copilot without ChatGPT at the time was like a box of crayons and a piece of scrap paper for AI. It just couldn't do what I needed it to do. It couldn't read PDFs. It couldn't read a table. It couldn't create a table. It wasn't saving time. Let's put it that way. And in one of the sessions, on one of those Friday fun sessions that I did with Ken and Tim introduced me to Claude. And I love Claude for documents. So I was like all about, okay, I'm going to use Claude. Claude is awesome. But it wasn't one of our approved software programs we were allowed to use in government. So I used the free version. And the funny thing is that I was only allowed, I think, so many, they didn't have tokens, but I could only do so many queries or something a day. And I think I could do maybe 4 or 5. And I had them first thing in the morning. And then if I waited till later in the afternoon, it seemed to like give me some more credits. So what I was doing was like trying to do all my Claude work first thing in the morning until I ran out of credits. And then I would do some other stuff, that probably wasn't too AI related. And then I would wait till the afternoon and hope I had time and I would throw some more in there. So I was, kind of working my way around trying to access Claude. And then the day came where Claude was like, no, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. We're not letting you have all these free tokens. Like we're going to give you our Copilot version of Claude, which wasn't very good. And like the good Claude you had to pay for. So I immediately started freaking out and trying to get a hold of people to find out how I could use Claude. I was talking to the director of IT infrastructure, like we were, submitting applications and they supported it, or IT strategic development or something. And then, I even used AI to fill out the application form because I didn't know all of the things that I needed to know about like where the data is stored and stuff. So, and this is an excellent, you did a great job filling this out. It took me 5 minutes with AI. It would have taken me forever if I'd done it on my own. And I still got barriers. Like if you want to talk about a map with obstacles, try to get anything in IT in the government. So I was just asking everybody how I could do this. Found out that there's ISDC, I think, has a government sandbox basically with different AI in it that you're allowed to use. It's called Radia. And I got an account, but it had 100,000 tokens per month. I had those gone in 2 queries on trying to build a safe work procedure. So that wasn't going to work. It said, if you need more tokens, contact these people. So I did. Turns out they were all directors. I had no idea. It was and then anyway, I ended up with my 20 million tokens a month. I could finally use it. And in the meantime, Copilot added ChatGPT. I remember the day that I went in and I saw try Chat, your GPT-5, and I was like, oh. And then I realized they both work really well. And I also had a Copilot license. I'm one of 300. Don't be jealous. My Copilot is one of the trial licenses where it can access my stuff in SharePoint and it can access my emails and do all those other wonderful things. So I had to like work the system to be able to get what I needed to be able to do the project. And now I have all the tools that I need, but I'm going to lose them all too. So that's part of the problem, right? Radio's going away. We're getting this thing called CanChat. It's a Canadian AI-based stuff. It's not there yet. It's It might be, instead of crayons, I find some of it is a little bit more like it might be coloring pencil grade. It's not there yet. Like, and that's the problem. You give me these great tools and then you yank them away and I'm going to retire. Like, it's just, so that was the first part of it. And then I guess you asked, what was your second question, Ken? Was
Well,
about,
just as one of the takeaways I think from this this part of the discussion is that you use Copilot to actually fill out the form for IT,
I
which
did.
I loved, right? And you mentioned how like the IT person said, "Wow, this is like the best filled out form ever."
Yep.
Did you
And it
did
took,
you tell them
yeah,
that
I
you
did.
used?
I said full
Okay, yeah,
disclosure, AI filled it out. I will tell people when I use AI, like all the time. And because if you see our IT forms when you're trying to get a piece of software, it asks a bunch of questions that only an IT person could answer. So yeah, I had Copilot do it. It did a great job. Of course, I had to prompt it because there's still sections in there like, what's the rationale of needing this? Have you tried other software? Like I had to tell it that stuff. But then it did all those other technical things. So that was
awesome.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if we're as lean thinkers, we're thinking root cause. IT needs to simplify its form, but until they do that, which could also be when hell freezes over. You can use Copilot to kind of work around some of those things.
Yep.
So my second question was more like how did you, when you're trying to amalgamate all these, you had this challenge of like getting all of these documents together, comparing, contrasting, synthesizing, updating, reviewing, changing, approving, etc. Um, how did you manage with AI? Like, how did you use it once you got all the licenses and so on? How did you
Well,
use it? Like, what was your journey there? Was it just like easy from the beginning, or did you struggle a bit?
no. Like it's definitely lessons learned. So I'm a trial and error person. I'm okay with something failing, and then trying another way. And then I knew that AI was like that. So I remember actually Ken getting into an argument with you in one of our Friday sessions about how you wanted to have the perfect prompt. And I was like, it's iterative, just keep giving it what you want. And, so I think I ended up with a blend of that because when it gets too iterative, like if you just say create a safe work procedure and you don't tell it what you want in the safe work procedure, it's going to give you, you know, what it gives you. You can tell it that that's what you want or that's not what you want afterwards, right? You can say, no, that's not what I'm looking for, fix this. So you can kind of, I'll say loosely because it's not really training, but you can train the AI to what you're looking for. It just really learns kind of like how to be repetitive is what it's doing. But I guess I played around with different prompts. And then we ended up getting access to this wonderful app called Grimes, and it's it keeps all our safe work procedures in a library. It was developed by another branch in DFO, and it's named after the Grimes guy in The Simpsons that used to go around and do all of the health and safety checks in the nuclear factory where Homer was, and I think in the end Homer drove him to his own demise. But so we have this Grimes template or Grimes library, but there's a standardized template that we follow in there. So I exported that as a PDF, like one of the ones that was already done that was in there from the other group, fed it into AI and said create a template from this. And it did. It created the blank template, and then I told it the kind of things that would be repetitive across. Like, we always have to have occupational health and safety training in the training section. So I started building that, and then I used save the template, and I would feed it the template every time, and then I would give it, and I would use my own eyes. Like if you give it too many documents, it's going to kind of burp a little bit, right? And I used to break Copilot, just to let you know. If I gave Copilot too much, it literally would just freeze and not do a thing. So like I would crack Copilot constantly. So I learned, okay, Copilot's not as capable as I would like it to be. So I'm not going to give it 8 documents. I'm going to give it like 2 or 3. So what I'd do is I'd go through and kind of quickly scan with my own eyes some of the safe work procedures, decide which ones look like they were the most comprehensive, you know, and it's a quick scan. I've got ADHD, so I read really quickly. And then I would decide which of the documents I wanted to bring in to do in the consolidation so that it would take those documents, it would take the information out of them, and then put them into the template form. And I would also ask it to make sure that it was following all of the current Canadian occupational health and safety standards. And I would point it to the Canadian Centre for Occupational Health and Safety website kind of thing. And it would go out and do that. And then, of course, I would check it over. They were being reviewed not just by me, though. So sometimes I will admit I get a lot done. So I would quickly scan it and know that we would catch problems when we brought it into the larger group setting, with full disclosure that AI could have hallucinated or, you know, not got something right. So eventually I got really good at it. And you talked about creating a prompt library in your last session, and I probably should have, but I just got so used to writing the same thing over and over again. And even to the point where I would be like, create bulleted lists, do not give me comma separated lists, like, because of the way it had to be uploaded in Word to Markdown format, basically. So anyway, it got good. And I mean, Neil and other people that are on the call got good at it with me, you know, kind of thing. Neil's really good at it. So we've been using it a lot, and teaching people how to use it as well, because people got really curious about it. So we've been, you know, meeting with groups and saying, all right, let's do it together with AI as we're putting things together. So it's been fun.
So I want to get to the Scrum part of this,
Sure.
but before we do that, is it possible for you to give us a little demo? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but like, do you have Grimes that maybe you can share your screen and show people what you
Um,
mean by
I can, but
Grimes?
you won't let me share my screen right now.
What? Really?
It's grayed out. Yeah.
Oh my Lord. That's no good. Okay, well, let me see if I can fix that for you. That's on me. That doesn't make sense. Um, Where are you? You're under M for McDonald, I think. There you are. Okay. Do make a presenter. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. I thought I had done that ahead of time, but can you now? Do you see the share screen now?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm just
Excellent.
I have to log into my VPN, and I'm going to apologize if my computer throws me off. I will be back. As soon as I start sharing, for some reason, sometimes my computer gets angry. Neil can entertain you while I'm doing that, because Neil's
There we
worked
go.
on this a lot with me. Okay. Alrighty. So Grimes is in something called DM apps that we had developed in Gulf region had developed. And this is basically, you know, the home screen of what we get. And then if I go in, I can see basically I'll just go into my safety dashboard. Nobody's assigned anything to me yet because it's, we're just launching it. I don't know why it's doing this. It might be being worked on right now. Just a second. I'll go into it a different way. Okay, so I'll just pull up aquatic animal dissection just to, you know, there's no gross pictures or anything. So basically, I'm in the administrator view right now. Most of the staff doesn't see it this way, but when people go in to actually read them afterwards, they're going to look at it and it's going to look like this.
Oh,
So,
there is
you
a
know,
gross picture.
well, it's not that gross if you're a fish biologist. So, you know, we have the objective, description of the task, and then there's like these sections that were already established by the group who set this up. So we just went with what they had. So like there's a training session, a PPE section, a safety rules, preparing the work area. And like this is basically the procedural steps. And in each of those, it identifies the hazards, and these are hazards to humans, not to the necessarily the environment or to like equipment. And then the mitigation steps to get away from that, or to prevent the hazard. Then we have other related tasks that, you know, are we want people to read about. We have references, and then it also gives us our entire review team so that we can see that. And this is a legislative requirement, right? So this isn't a, you should, it's a thou shalt kind of thing. We have to follow the rules for our Canadian Occupational Health and Safety and Canada Labor Code Part 2. So basically what I did is I would have downloaded this to PDF. So we'll do that right now, just to give you an idea, if it'll let me. If it doesn't, I have lots of them already. There we go. So it's downloaded it. So now that Copilot's not challenging anymore, I will use Copilot because most people in the government actually have that now. I apologize for the slowness. Ask me another question, Cam, while I'm doing this.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just I think that what you're showing us was kind of the standard format, and so you downloaded it and you created a template that fit that format, so that when
Yep.
when you are putting together documents and when people are looking at the document, they're all looking at the same thing, same format, same template. So it wasn't like all over the place the way it was at the beginning.
That's right. That's exactly it. And it works really, really well. Let me just, it's probably going to make me sign in and do all my double verifications and everything right now because it knows I'm so I can just show you. I think if I go to my conversations that it saves, it actually chats, view all chats. Is it not going to let me? It seems to be quite frozen here. Oh, here we go. Okay, all chats. We're also having Oscars, if anybody's reading my screen. These are Oscars that are awards for occupational health and safety. Yeah, so I haven't done anything on this one recently, but basically, here's another example. I use AI a lot as a tool, again. So I had to do a presentation the other day with updates about a project this project I'm working on. So I gave it some information. It asked me a couple of questions. It gave me some stuff I asked to make it downloaded. And then it gave me this. And it was a really nice slideshow. I didn't like the background, but it gave me a slideshow that I could use at least to try to, start the work. But then here's a great thing that Copilot does. It doesn't make it downloadable. So, I did all this great stuff in here and then I was really frustrated. I'm like, it's not downloadable. And it's like, oh, that's not a you problem. It's a interface problem or something. So, but you can use it to actually create PowerPoints and things like that. And when it works really well. It'll actually go in and mine all the information with the license I have and put it all into the document and then spit it back out for me. So I'm not wasting a bunch of time trying to do something. I can do one right now that might be fun just to show people. Let me do new conversation, new chat. And if I go into, I'll just pull up my email just to show you. This is one of the ways that I find it works so well. And I have to do it through 365 online with this particular license. And what I can do is, let's say I went out on vacation and I came back and there was a ton of emails that I've missed and I want to know what I've missed in the last 2 weeks. And I can say, go through my last 2 weeks of emails, tell me what's really important, like what's come up a lot, and then tell me what my top 3 action items are for the next 2 weeks. So right here, I'll just say, so say, oh my gosh, it's so slow. I was going to ask it to give me a summary of things that I've chatted about with you. Okay. I should say Ken Eakin.
Might want to be careful about the summary of your chats with Ken. I'm sure you've shared lots of jokes.
I don't think there's anything too
No.
saucy in there. We'll find out, I guess. Time you see me all, folks.
Now, again, I'm showing you something that, and Copilot doesn't care if you can't spell. Don't worry about it. Like everybody's always going back and fixing stuff. I'm like, no, it knows enough to fix your stuff. So what it's doing right now is it's mining my my emails. Yeah, the dad joke summary. Yeah, we could get dad jokes.
So I want to just
while
make
it's
sure we're
doing
aware
that,
of
normally
the
it's faster,
content.
but I think it's, yeah. So
Oh,
you
no,
wanted to talk about the Scrum, right? So let's move on to
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I
Yeah, I
can't
was
do
gonna-
it. I don't have enough bandwidth to do it right now. I apologize. If anybody can share my email, if anybody wants to reach out to me after this, I have no problem with talking about it or showing you what I've done.
So I'm gonna, while you talk about this, or I ask you about this, I'm gonna just show this diagram on our, oopsie. Sorry, I'm trying to get everybody on the right screen. Okay, I'm gonna show this diagram on the screen. This is, for those, some of you on the call probably don't know the Scrum framework, but this is a standard Scrum framework. I've taken the labels off because we adapted it to Danielle's situation, which is fine. I think, you know, Scrum is adaptable. It's meant to be so flexible, but we took some core ideas, and I think I can summarize it in that the AI was used at the front end to get kind of all of the documents in order and you know, synthesized and kind of categorized and so on. But then it needed to go through a process where experts would look at it. So Danielle would take like the 17 different ways to, you know, operate a vessel safely, and then she would amalgamate them into like one, you know, document for small vessels, let's say, that, you know, covered all the bases. And then she would say, okay, now we have to have some experts review this and make sure that, you know, it's all good. And there were hundreds of these documents, so she needed a process for kind of moving this through the mill. So what we did is, you know, she had organized and synthesized all the documents using AI, but then she refined the, you know, we had a backlog, and the Scrum terminology is backlog refinement, but she kind of clustered them into groups that made sense logically. Like, okay, all the chemicals will be in one group, all the vessels in another, all the equipment in another. And then ordered them. We're not going to do them all at once. We're going to do them in priority order. And then, you know, sprint is, for those of you who don't know, is kind of like a short segment of a larger project. So it's like this kind of, you know, 1-2 week interval where you try to get a portion, like a meaningful portion done. And Danielle, you disappeared. You still with us? And so, you know,
Can
the
you see me?
planning. No, I can just see the DM, but that's fine. But I can hear you. Anyway, the sprint planning was, you know, okay, so what are we going to do in this? You know, we've got this whole project where we have to get all of these documents done in our sprint, which will be in the next 2 or 3 weeks. What are we going to do? So Danielle decided, okay, we're going to do this group. Let's say we're going to do chemicals. Now I'm going to look up all the subject matter experts who know about chemicals, organize them, say, okay, you're on deck for this date to review these documents, and there you go. Like, and basically then what happened was that I think there was visibility in Grimes. So that thing that she showed you, which is great. Some of you may not have such a great you know, database for whatever projects you're working on, but there was visibility as to like what they were trying to do and where it was at.
Ken, we had a project board, like a Scrum board too.
Oh, you did? Oh, awesome. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you can show us that.
Yep.
And then
I'm going to try to share it if I don't crash again.
So then it went to, these documents went to, you know, the review and approval team. Basically, they looked it over, suggested edits, changes, if any. And then, oh, did you just take over the sharing? Okay.
Mm-hmm. I
There's our
did.
Scrum
Sorry.
board.
I just want to show everybody the backlog. So we had all the different sprints in here. This was our visual board. and the items moved across. This is actually just in Planner. Everybody in the government pretty well has this. And we could move it into the different sprints and then through the process. So they went from the sprint to the subject matter expert reviewers, to the supervisor for review, to the OSH committee. Sometimes they came back to me. I have a backlog at the moment. And then to the regional min, to the regional director, and then they were put into Grimes, or sometimes they were actually like consolidated or deleted. So I kept this visual out the whole time, and everybody had access to this board to see what they had to work on and stuff. So, and we used it at the start of our sprints as well. So I will stop sharing.
It's okay. I'm going to take over again. So there was visibility here. This is misleading saying it's in Grimes. It was actually in Planner. But the takeaway, if you want to use this framework, is that you need to have visibility on what you're doing and where things are at within your sprint, not for the whole project, but like the stuff you're working on in this 2 to 3 week period. Where is it at? You're planning to do 10 documents. Are we on pace? Are we keeping up so that we'll finish? And so that goes through the review and approval process. We didn't have daily Scrum meetings in traditional Scrum. You have these like huddles or Scrum meetings in front of this board. I think that Danielle, you just monitored, and if there are check-ins needed, you did it. But otherwise, if things were moving, you was sort of like you just let it go, right?
Yep, I did. I monitored it, and if it needed intervention, it got it. But if it was working well, I left it alone.
So the end of the sprint meant that like all the documents they had planned to review were done. That was the goal, right? And if they were done and then sent to the OHS committee for future approval, that was kind of done. We originally said, well, we want it done, like we want them, the committee to sign off, but trying to get the committee to meet on our schedule was a little challenging. So we just said, okay, if they're all in the queue for done, then that's great. I'm noticing there's 5 minutes left. I want to leave some time for questions. The retrospective, which typically in a traditional Scrum environment you would do at the end of every sprint, Danielle just did it at the end of the project as a kind of lessons learned thing. So
and that's coming up. We're not quite done yet, so we're going to be doing it hopefully in March.
So I'm not saying you have to adhere to this. What I'm showing you is the Scrum framework, which is very useful and very helpful for organizing projects and getting things done. You can adapt it to your own situation. This was how Danielle adapted it to hers, but there's lots of ways you can slice and dice this. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Danielle, I don't know if you have anything else to add that's like desperately important. I'd like to open the floor to questions.
The only thing I want to add is if nobody's written and Craig can actually correct me on the title of the book, but there's a book by J.J. Sutherland about Scrum. I listened to it in the car because I have a long drive to work. It was mind-blowing and life-changing for me in terms of project management. The Scrum methodology just, they talk about the pitfalls of like Gantt charts and things and why Scrum works better. And I know it's designed more for software, but you can adapt it to any project that you're working on, and I think it's fantastic. And I just want to put that shout out there. Maybe Craig can type in the name of the book.
Hey, so Mark had a question. I'm just taking this from the chat, and I see that Trish also has one. So let's go to Mark first, and then Trish, have you explored developing an AI agent designed to integrate and refine THAs and operational procedures? So did you play with agents?
I did, but towards the end, our version of Scrum, sorry, I'm stuck on Scrum now. Our version of Copilot, we have agents in Copilot, but they're not through the studio basically. So I can't share my agent with somebody else, which was what I wanted to do. I wanted to create this agent I could just, release into the world, and I actually named it Frank Grimes, so that everybody could use it that was working on the project. I couldn't, but I did create an agent that had, I gave it all of the websites that it had to go to and all of the documents that it would need over in a library. And I spent, I probably spent a Friday afternoon building the agent, more out of curiosity than anything else. And then I didn't know how to call on the agent or how to use the agent. So I'm still exploring agents. I was able to do things without having to use it. But I think that there's a lot of value in agents if you can use them properly. for example, if I was going to write a briefing note for the minister's office, I would like for them to have some automated agent that comes out and just like, I autofill some sections and it creates the briefing note kind of thing from what I input. But yeah.
So Trish had her hand up. Trish, go ahead.
Yeah, so Danielle and I had a bit of a discussion about this, but Danielle, you and I have talked about how there's some opposition to using AI.
Yeah.
So how do you have a discussion with people who you're so enthusiastic about it? I'm enthusiastic about it. I want to train others on it. But how do you convince people or have the discussion with people who may not be so enthusiastic about using this approach?
So that's a really good question, Trish, because I have met a lot of, especially in science, we can be a bit anti-AI. And I think people are also worried about AI and, job losses and things like that. And I'm very cognizant of that. I don't think AI replaces people. I think when I talk to people about it, it's just another tool in your toolbox. I'm old enough that I grew up without technology, and then I had to adapt to technology as it came out. And I've just been doing that my whole life, right? I remember when the internet came out and it was like, oh, it's going to be this voodoo thing, right? So I think my enthusiasm is contagious because what I'll do is say, hey, can I show you? Are you interested in seeing how I do that in AI? And I'll even have the skeptics go, AI. But then I get in there and I show them what I'm doing and then they see, and I kind of lean into what maybe their interest would be and how it would help them and not replace them. So, I'll use scientists. They don't like all the administrative work that they have to do. So show them how they can use AI to help them with that part of it. Filling out statement of works for contracts. We did that one afternoon. And like if it's a basic kind of, say like a service agreement or whatever that's based on a manual for a piece of equipment, you can get that done in no time at all. Where most scientists and biologists and techs will be like, oh, I don't want to work on that because they don't do it often enough. They don't know what they need to get started. So then they see it as this tool that's actually helping them and helping them do the things they hate. So they get the buy-in. That's where you start getting the buy-in, right? And then they start asking more curious questions like, well, if it can do that, can it do this? And like, then you can start kind of opening them up a little bit to seeing how it could help them, even with elements of their work that they like to do, but maybe it takes a long time to get it done. So they can try to do it with AI to free up more time. I used it to write code for R, and I'm not a coder at all. And I was going in and doing a bunch of stuff in R with data. It was incredible. So, I mean, it takes away the need for everybody to be complete experts on something, but you have to know enough about what you're doing in order to be able to use it as well. So it's the enthusiasm, Trish, and then meeting people where they are, I think is really important. And gradually, it's like change management, right? You kind of got to get that buy-in and give them a chance to warm up to it and see the value in it for them, rather than saying you have to use AI to write all your briefing notes kind of thing, right? So it's, yeah.
Hey, sorry, Danielle, to cut you off here. I've launched a poll. We're over time already. We're on lunch break. I think the next session start at 12:40. Those are clinics. Based on a poll earlier, we've tailored them to what the majority wanted. So please check those out at 12:40. 12:40 Eastern time. For those of you in New Brunswick, it's an hour later. Anyway, I've launched the poll for Danielle's session, so you can give us some feedback. We really appreciate it. Danielle, thank you so much. I wish we had more time to chat about this important topic, especially the change management part at the end. Maybe that'll be next year's talk. But thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me. And thanks for all the work that we've been doing together on this kind of stuff too. And the work you've done with our team. Ken did come in and do a Scrum session for everybody, an intro to Scrum for everybody that worked on the project. And it was one of the largest training groups that we had in science all together at once. And people really liked it. So yeah, it was very valuable.
Thanks, Danielle. Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers.